Hi there, my name is John, and today I'm going to be brewing some beer, and I thought I'd throw together a video if anyone wants to learn how to brew beer themselves. It's a pretty easy process. I know there's other how-to videos out there, but you know, you can always do it better, so I figured I'd give it a crack and try to focus on how easy it is and kind of go over all the equipment that you need and the basic process so you can see how easy it is and be confident that you can do it too. So first I'll start off with walking you through all of the equipment that you'll need, and I'll show you where you can buy it. I can show you the whole process, and well, let's get started. I want to show you here, these are the ingredients that come with an extract brewing kit, and it's going to be different based on which kit you pick, what the recipe is, but they're going to have some basic ingredients, and I'll go through those here. Now, the first thing that I have here is a bag of specialty grains. And not all extract kits will come with steeping grains, but most of them will. So I'll take you through the process on how to do that. Basically, you've got this bag here of grains, and you've got this muslin bag. So what we're going to do is we're going to stick all of those grains into the bag, and then we're going to put it in a pot of warm water and let it steep for a while, just like you let your tea steep, to get all the sugars and stuff out of those grains. And then we're just going to discard the bag full of grains. So I'll walk you through all that. Okay, next we have some malt extract bags. You can see here I've got 2 bags of malt extract, and you know, it's just a powder, and you can add that into the boiling water based on your recipe. Your recipe is going to have a time chart that you're going to follow, and you're going to add the ingredients to the water at specific time intervals, and it'll spell all that out for you in the recipe, and I'll show you how that works. Okay, next we have 2 packages of hops, which add bitterness to beer, and a package of Irish moss, which clarifies beer, gets rid of the cloudiness. And again, according to the recipe, we're going to add these to the boiling water at specific time intervals, so it's pretty easy. Now we have a couple things that aren't going to get used today. They're going to get used, well, the yeast will get used later today, and the bottles and the priming sugar won't be used for a while. But the yeast is added to the sugary water called the wort after we brew it up here, and the yeast is going to just eat the sugar and make alcohol, and that's basically what it does. Then we have beer caps, and we have priming sugar. Now what priming sugar is right before we bottle our beer, we're going to add priming sugar to the wort. What that's going to do is it's going to reinvigorate the yeast, so the yeast want to start eating again, and then they'll carbonate the beer right inside the bottle. Now I also have here a gallon of sanitizer. Sanitizer is a, well, this one is called sodium metabisulfite. You can get it from any homebrew store. And you just mix it up with some water. And what you do is you swish that around inside any container that you're going to be using, or any instruments that you're going to be using inside the beer. You need to soak them in the sanitizer to get rid of all the little critters that can destroy your beer. We also have a primary fermenter, which is basically a glorified food grade plastic pail, and you can see it's got water level indication marks on the side, and it's got a hole in the top, a little rubber grommet, and then this thing you see here is called an airlock. Now basically what we're going to do is, when we transfer our wort over into this container, we are going to put some water in there. You can also use vodka if you want to keep it a sanitary environment. I actually end up putting my sanitizer in there just to make sure that it's a sanitary environment inside here. And then basically, as the yeast eat the sugar, they give off alcohol and carbon dioxide. Well, you need to let that carbon dioxide out of the container so it doesn't blow up. And what this does is it lets carbon dioxide out, but it doesn't let air back in. So that's an airlock. And we have a carboy, which is a big glass jug. And also for the carboy, I have a little carrying handle on here, And then I also have a rubber stopper with a hole in it that goes in the top so that I can put one of these airlocks right in the top of that. You're also going to need about 50 brown beer bottles. Now, this can be kind of hard to get started with. My recommendation would be to get on Craigslist and keep an eye out. A lot of times people will just give these away. You can also get them from your homebrew store. I don't think they're too expensive, but when you start getting enough for 2 and 3 batches at a time, it can get expensive. As you can see, I've got quite a few there, quite a few on my rack, and then some in that case down there. So I've probably got about 400 bottles, so I can have 4 or 5 batches going at a time. So just start collecting your brown beer bottles, and that'll save you some of that expense. You're also going to need a couple other items here. This is called a hydrometer. Okay, you float it in a liquid and it tells you how much sugar is in the liquid and what the potential is for alcohol given the amount of sugar. This is just a beaker that the hydrometer will float in, and then this is called a thief. A thief is just a long straight thing that you can dip down into your wort, and you can suck on the end of this to draw it up in, and then you can use it to fill your beaker. You're going to also need a thermometer, because what you're going to need to do is when you're steeping your grains in the muslin bag, you're going to need to keep it at an even temperature. That'll be specified in the directions that came with your kit. Usually it's about 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So you'll need a thermometer to be able to check the temperature of the water. And you'll also need a metal spoon with a nice long handle to stir. Alright, the last piece of equipment that I use is a turkey fryer, which serves as a good, inexpensive brew pot. I highly recommend it as a first brew pot. I'm hoping to upgrade to a stainless steel pot in the future, but they're very expensive. This whole kit with the burner and the pot was around $60. And I can post some links in the notes on where you can get yourself one of these. But so yeah, and then it's hooked up to a propane tank. And so we'll be boiling our beer in this pot, and we're doing it outside just because it's a little safer. The beer, you know, being sugary water, can easily boil over, and you need to be careful to make sure it doesn't boil over, but in case it does, it's nice to be outside. Plus it's a beautiful spring day, so it'll be fun to be outside. Okay, so the first step in this process is to transfer the steeping grains into the muslin bag. And I also have a little container here. We'll hand you any plastic container, 1 gallon container I use for this kind of stuff. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to transfer these into the bag, then plop it in the container just to keep the dust down. So. So now we have what appears to be a great big sock full of grains. And again, I'm just going to, well actually, what I'm going to do here is tie the top off. And then I've just got it in my little container to keep the dust down. See, there's already dust growing inside of there, so might as well keep it in something to keep that dust down. So. Alright, so now we're going to take this outside. We're going to get our water up to 150 degrees, then we're going to add this bag into the water. And I also mentioned that you'll need a stopper for the carboy. And you can see here I've got a smaller carboy. This is a 1 gallon size with a stopper and an airlock. And so And actually I think I've got one here that's still bubbling. You can see that this is actually a wine and it's bubbling. And so what happens is the carbon dioxide from the little yeast, the little bubbles coming up, comes up, and then the airlock can let the carbon dioxide out without letting the air get back in, because the air can spoil your beer, your wine, or whatever you're making. So, okay, got a fire going, and you can see now that my temperature is 150 degrees. So it is time to add our grains. Simple process of dropping that in there. Now, the important thing is we need to, well, first off, we need to make sure that all the grains are soaked in water. Now, we need to make sure we maintain a constant 150 degrees. So I need to come out here every few minutes and check the temperature until I'm sure that it's staying at 150. It's kind of tough with the turkey fryers because you know, the burners are pretty aggressive, but you know, you get a hang of it. So check my temperature again, 150, and I'm just gonna put this on here, and I think I'm just gonna turn this down a little bit. And now we need to wait 30 minutes, maintaining 150 degrees. Here's a note about the dried malt extract. This might come in the form of a can with a liquid in it as opposed to a powder, and that's fine. They're the same thing. Just want to let you know that you might see a can with a liquid instead of the powder. Okay, it's been 30 minutes. Our steep is over. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to reach in there, grab the top of this grain bag, and I'm going to let it drain until it stops dripping. Usually my socks are a little longer than this, my muslin bag, and I'll just tie it on the handle. This one's a little shorter, but I'm going to put the camera down a second and do that anyways. Okay, I tied off my bag on the handle there. Just to let it drain for a few minutes. I've turned the heat off at this point because, well, I'm going to be adding the dry malt extract next, which is in these bags. And little pro tip for you, if there's a lot of steam coming off the pot, when you try to dump the dry malt extract into the pot, the steam will come up in the bag and it'll turn some of the powder into like a chunky mess inside the bag, and then you won't be able to get that malt out. So what I like to do is let it cool down a little bit so it's not steaming too bad before I dump in my malt. Now my recipe says to add half a gallon of water right now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to dump it over the grains to get whatever juices and sugars are left inside the grains into the wort, but without squeezing the bag. You don't want to squeeze the bag because those little holes in the muslin bag will allow some of the grains to come through, and you don't want a bunch of grain husks in your wort. There's going to be some sediment, and that'll all get taken care of when we rack into the secondary, so it's not a big deal. When you see when we go to the primary fermenter, you'll see there's a bunch of stuff that gets transferred over, and that's okay. Alright, so I'm going to let that drain out for a few minutes, and then I'm going to pull the bag out, and then I'm going to start the fire again. Okay, so now I have let my grains drain out, move the spent grains to a bucket so I can just toss those, and I've clipped the tops off my bags of malt. Now there's very little steam coming off the pot right now, so it's a good time to add this malt. Another good thing about adding the malt with the heat off is, now I'm just going to stir that into the liquid. big mess right down there right now, but that's all going to clean up when I get that fire going again, which I'm going to do right now. Alright, now what I wanted to show you here is that I did get it up to a boil, and it did start to boil up, so I immediately shut the heat off so that I could get the foam back down. But now I need to turn the heat back on and keep it at a boil. Alright. Got a nice slow boil going. It's going to boil up at first while it all gets up to temperature, and then after you get over the first couple boil ups, you should stop. Just keep stirring to the bottom, make sure you don't burn any at the bottom. Now I did add per the recipe, I did add a gallon of water before I started boiling. So I'm at 2.5 gallons in the boil right now. And we're going to end up with 5 gallons finished. The other 2.5 gets added when we go into the fermenter, and that just cools it down.